and I see the chair, St. John, St. Philip, St. Mark's is in St. Philip, and I see the chair is nodding her head because she knows about it, where that community takes responsibility for that center and the programs in that center. Which means that if some person want to use the center at 12 o'clock in the night, someone for the community, from that management committee, will be able to open and close the place and be responsible for that building. The same thing happens in Parkinson, in the Payne, and in Rockfield, of course, in St. Lucie. And I'm saying that it has worked successfully thus far. And I want to assure each member of parliament that this will happen in every single area that has a community center. But along with that, community management committees must be able to manage programs within their geographic space. They must be able to have a tangible stake and a say and a physical presence in everything that happens within their community. The other question you asked as it relates to the insurance and the legal aspects to the insurance and the monies are being paid, that is something that we can sit down and review, because I share your concern. There's a lot of situations where teams come to us, or community groups come to us, and they say they don't have the money, and I think there are provisions made in those special cases. But we try to encourage persons, if they can afford the insurance, because it's very important, as a lawyer you would know, that there are situations that can happen, unforeseen situations where there may be injuries or so. So that is something that we would definitely encourage persons to look at. But we can, as you say, renegotiate, because a lot of these things over the last decade has been somehow juxtaposed on the psyche of Barbadians and institutions, and has led to a lot of the problems that we are having in communities. So this is something that we will definitely review. We will have the conversations that we need to have, because it is, I understand your concern, and it's a concern shared by a lot of groups across Barbados. And I will take your lead on that, Mr. Minister. The last issue about the Prince Trust, I will invite Ms. Elizabeth Boyne, who is the person. Yeah. Oh yeah. You had asked about sales score as well. You asked so much questions and wanted, like a good lawyer. Sales score is in our estimates. I didn't know you would have already looked through the estimates with a microscopic lens. But if you look at the minutiae, that's what the MP for St. George will call it, the minutiae of the document, you will see that there are funds in place for sales court. And I won't want to tell the whole of Barbados how much funds it is, but sales court will be retrofitted, and they will have not only a physical space, but along with that, you now have to encourage, as MP for the area, and I know that you also have a physical presence, to encourage those in the surrounding area to come on board and form that community group to help take care of this building when we hand it over. Because we are not only handing it over to an MP, we are handing it over to an entire community. So that is something that is in the make. And certainly I will let Ms. Boyne speak more intimately about the Prince Trust, and any concerns you have, I suspect you can answer in follow-up questions.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Elizabeth Boyne, Senior Youth Commissioner, Youth Development Program. In response to the Honorable Minister for Christchurch East, I wish to share with you the details surrounding the partnership with the Prince Trust International and the Ministry of Youth and Community Empowerment. This partnership goes back to 2016, and the ministry is responsible for what we call the employability programs. And these programs are divided into two components. The Get Into programs, which are 4 to 6 week sector-based programs for young persons 16 to 24 years old. And then there's the short-term employability, very robust employability, 2-day Get Hired program. I'm going to speak briefly first to the Get Into programs. The Get Into programs is done through major employer engagement. And we would have started with the sectors such as the hospitality sector, the retail sector, and the logistics sector. And to date, we would have engaged over close to 200 persons, young persons. We've facilitated over 200 persons in these programs. There's a personal development aspect of the program, which is just a 1-week personal development, and we look at some of the critical areas that employers are saying to us that we need to focus on. So things like managing their time, punctuality, positive attitudes, and effective communication. These are the areas we cover in that 1-week time period. And then we do a job placement. We do the job placement with the intention that the young person would perform well enough to be retained for long-term or occasional employment. And we ask employers ahead of time if they could commit to at least 50% of the numbers we give them to provide employment for at least 50% of those numbers. Some employers may commit to more, but we reasonably ask them if they could commit to 50%. The Get Hired program is a 2 to 3 day employability program, and these are for persons who are close to 90% job ready. I would say between 80 and 90% job ready, and would only require for us to open a door with an employer for them. So what we've attempted to do in the ministry, or what we sought to do, is that the first day is like an empowerment day. So we invite the young persons who are interested in the particular sector. Again, so far we would have engaged the Royal Barbados Police Force, the Defense Force, because our first employability programs in the Get Hired were called Get Into the Uniformed Services. And we knew ahead of time that the Royal Barbados Police Force were looking to increase their numbers. So we would have collaborated with Inspector Roland Cobbler, and we would have engaged him in robust dialogue, and he is the person who we will continue to liaise with to ensure that those young persons who, there were 62 of them who showed up with an interest in getting into the Royal Barbados Police Force, can be facilitated in a meaningful way. And they have all, they have applied, and we have submitted those applications. The Defense Force numbers were roughly around 30-something, and our third sector so far was construction. And we would have engaged a number of construction partners, and even though we haven't got the total number of commitments to date, because some of them have indicated to us that their current projects are fully staffed, but they're willing to work with the ministry, they would place the young persons in a pool to be chosen from should business takes off in a meaningful way. And some have indicated to us that March and April will be times, the period of time that they could engage the ministry to facilitate some of those young persons. Thank you.
So in a nutshell, you're satisfied with the way the program is going?
Yes, in terms of what the numbers we've been able to facilitate, I'm extremely pleased with the number of young persons we've been able to touch, because the employers are saying to us that the product that we're delivering out there is a good product.
Thank you.
I want to say, because I suspect from your question that you would want a history about the Prince Trust and how it has become a vital partner in this, certainly in this ministry and this country. The Prince Trust started basically in 1976. And after the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, of course, after his stint in the military, he decided to start a movement across the United Kingdom for disadvantaged children, what some person may call the at-risk, but certainly those who are at the bottom of the spectrum. And that was around a very depressed area in the UK then. Since then, this trust has sent out a dedicated team across the world. A lot of countries, I think is about how much countries? They come out, more than 100 different countries, where they look at the most vulnerable and the disadvantaged children to come up with programs and to lend not only financial assistance, but to provide technical support with their consultants in an effort to reduce the high level of unemployment. Certainly, when we took over government on May the 25th, 2018, the levels of unemployment amongst our young people were up to about 30%. I'm not exaggerating. It is way too high. 70% of school leavers, and this is out from our tracer studies, 70% of school leavers are unemployed and disengaged. We have to redouble our efforts to ensure that we meet these young people, to employ them so they will have disposable income to help support themselves and their family, and to give them those who want to achieve. That's why you say that when we rescind this tuition fees at the university, that was the first step in the right direction. We will continue with these partnerships, these associations, so that we can have the type and group of young people we need in this country, so that they can be champions of the future. That is what we are saying. So we want to thank the Prince Trust and all the players involved for giving those young persons, the young persons that work with Inspector Cobbler, that's it, Inspector Cobbler and his team, when they go around to every single block and the derelict communities, identifying young persons and putting them into programs so that they will have that chance to make a difference in their life. So I just want to give a little history as to how it started and why there is something called the Prince Trust in Barbados. So I hope that has answered your question, Minister.
What's the age group?
The age.
16 to 25.
Thank you. Honourable Member for St. Andrew.
Mr. Minister, I would like to applaud you for your intervention on this head, and certainly your comments speak volumes to what your ministry has been doing in the Ministry of Youth Affairs. Like the Honourable Member for Christchurch East, I think that's the member for St. Thomas took a little bit out of my thunder in terms of the questions that I would have loved to ask. I mean, and in his comments too, he did elaborate on one or two things that I was thinking of asking you, and I must commend you for your response with respect to the community centers. I think, though, that we would like to be a little clear, though, on the policy with respect to community centers. You spoke about plans by your ministry, and I believe that you would have taken into consideration the comments of both the members of Christchurch East and St. Thomas with respect to what they would like to see in terms of the community centers going forward. I certainly would like to know what are the plans of your ministry in terms of the community centers that are no more. And I speak specifically to my own constituency in St. Andrew, the community center at Rock Hall. In the last decade, we had problems with the building, and the site was dilapidated and nothing was done. In Payne, the response by the residents of St. Andrew in the Payne area was the construction, or actually the placement of a container to replace the community center. And when you look around St. Andrew, not a single community center, even though the Buccaneer in Orange Hill was more or less reactivated. I would like to know from your ministry whether or not there are plans to restore the activity, and by restoring the activity in these areas, obviously it would include the replacement of those buildings, because it is something that we hammered during the election campaign, the last two election campaigns, in terms of the neglect by the last administration in these areas. And I'm not speaking specifically to the neglect in St. Andrew, but I think that from speaking to my colleagues, this is so in many of the communities around Barbados, where absolutely nothing was done to put the community centers in the state that they were in the past. Because traditionally, I would say that any development that I have gained over in my life had a lot to do with my involvement with the community, and the community centers were at the forefront. of that activity, as a result of which, in my later years, I sort of advanced to the Kiwanis Club and the other service clubs, which the honourable member for Christchurch South, Christchurch East, spoke about. So I would like to know, one, what specifically, I mean, I don't want to hear that you have money in the estimates to deal with community centers. I want to know specifically what your policy is in terms of what I have spoken, in terms of those community centers that have been neglected, that have been abandoned and have not been replaced, because I certainly would not like to go into another election where I would have to tell the people of Rock Hall, the people of Belle Plaine, that we are going to replace the community centers in those areas again. People would think that we are making sport. Secondly, my second area of concern, here again, I would like to applaud you for what the ministry is doing in terms of the building blocks. I would say that up to a few years ago, St. Andrew was fortunate not to have the blocks that we've seen throughout the island. And I think one of the ways of breaking up those blocks is to make sure that you provide employment for those persons on the block, and not that the blocks would be no more, but they would obviously generate the electricity in their brain in other areas. But while I applaud you for your building blocks program, it would seem as though the good boys, the decent boys, and I believe that the decent boys and girls, and I will believe that 99% of Barbadian youth are from this group. It is just that 1% that create problems for all of us. And it is good to say that we don't want that behavior both here, but we have to make sure that we put certain things in place to place the good young people as the examples and as the tutors for that other 99%. And I applaud you for what you are doing with respect to the building blocks. But I am not hearing any program with respect to that 1%. And that 1% are those groups that the member for St. Thomas and the member for Christchurch East spoke about, the good boys, the good girls, those who are involved in the youth groups and the youth clubs. Growing up, I remember the days when the member for St. Thomas, who is much older than me, could probably attest to this. People from the Community Development Division, I remember people like Kay Howard. I wonder if she's still alive. Kay Howard. There were a group of people, a whole cadre of people in the Community Development Division who used to go around and not only help us in building our clubs, but they used to go into communities where there were no youth groups and no youth clubs and start up the youth clubs. And there were some individuals who played a leading part in this exercise, people who we know. In St. James, I could think of people like Keith Yearwood, Keith Simmons, Rudolph Odwin, Wilbert Morgan, Douglas Keith, and people of that caliber who played a leading role. And we had a lot of fun. You had the annual debates, the inter-youth group debates. I will recall too, you had the Barbados Youth Council under Dennis Hunt. We don't have the type of deviance that you are seeing in society nowadays. I mean, I don't know, I can't think of an individual, a young person in those days who would go to a fair and get mashed and would want to take it out there and then, and saying sorry is not an excuse for the youngsters nowadays. And in that environment, we practice our anger in the debates to make sure that we win the debates, that we compete in cricket and football and various sports, various activity. And I believe, notwithstanding the fact that some of us might think we don't want to go back Sometimes going back, there's a lot that we could learn from going back. It would be good if there is some program. I mean, and I would not say that you brushed aside the member. I can't remember which member had asked about the youth clubs, and you said there is enough money, that there is money in the base for this. I don't want to hear that. If there are no plans for constructing or reconfiguring the youth groups and the youth clubs, I believe that should be on the agenda. And in the same way that you have done an excellent job, because I say excellent, you've done a miraculous job. I've seen some of those youngsters on the building blocks.
Kindly wrap up, if you know.
And if you've done, I'll wrap up just now. If you've done a good job with respect to the building blocks, and the guys on the block, the deviant youths, I think that you could go a little further, and if you could sort of have a program whereby those youth groups, the youth clubs, and the older guys could become involved, maybe it might make your job a lot easier. So I am saying in these two particular areas, what are the plans for the ministry with respect to the youth groups going forward, and with respect to those community centers that are no more? Thank you.
I want to commend you for your comments and your question, Minister, Member Parliament for St. Andrew. And you know that I have an idyllic connection to that parish, because that is where my navel string was born, buried, and I really respect your comments. Minister, the concept of the building, I'm going to answer the last question first. The concept of the building blocks came about because, of course, we recognize that the level of disengagement at that level, where fellas, youngsters, could be persons in my age group, decide that that is their safe haven, where they gather because they felt dejected in every single other aspect of society. At home, they feel not welcome. Sometimes they don't even think that they're fitting at the church. And at school, there's always a problem because they may be learning slower than other persons. All types of disgraces these young people face. So they remain unemployed, disengaged, and, as I said, the old adage, the devil find work for either hands. We are saying, as a government, from a policy perspective, in July in 2018, we decided to remove the albatross, which would seek to destroy education as we know it and the accessibility of education as we know it when it comes to tuition fee. So those at the high end that the minister is speaking about certainly will no longer fall through the crack, because they will be given the financial assistance to do so. Secondly, we have a number of programs within our ministry to cater for those who want to do the culinary arts, the technical arts subjects, those persons who are interested in animation, robotics. There's a series of programs available for those persons. So we are not going to leave out those persons in our conversation. We believe in this ministry, if we lose one too many. But we must be able to scratch those people and build out those young people. A mind scratch with a new experience will never go back to its old dimension. We have to give them that opportunity to open up the door so that the future and a good future will step into their lives. And that's what we are doing with the building blocks. Because 169 youngsters over 4 communities that we started the project, and if you go around to the Ivy, if you visit by chance behind Parkinson Field and Silver Hill, if you visit and Bonnets, of course, the Member Parliament for Christ Church West, I ain't see him here yet. But if you visit those 4 areas now, you will see those same youngsters that would ordinarily be seen in nefarious activities. You will see those fellas building and putting those blocks to build up their lives in a literal way. In a metaphorical way, certainly, and a figurative way, those same youngsters went in a classroom for the first time in their lives and graduated. 169 at Parkinson Field. Never in their life they ever went to a graduation. But they turn up because they understand that their lives are given an opportunity to be taken care of. And that is the type of hope that we must create within our people. We must give them the opportunity to put down those weapons of destruction and pick up the tools of empowerment. I have said it before. And every single aspect of the society will be taken care of in this ministry. And that is a commitment I have made to all those in air and Aisha. This government will leave no stone unturned in its trust and mandate to provide for every single young person in this country. So at the high end, what we are doing is that we have the programs in our ministry to meet their needs. The digital media program, the Next Tech Training Initiative, where we partner with Community College, TVET Council, Polytechnic, Paul Marine as we know it. There's the pathways. And Liz would have thought about the Prince Trust partnership. But the pathways is a program that we put young persons, those who, as the Member of Parliament said, who are interested in high-end achievement. There is something in the party for them as well. And as I said, when we came to party governance, on July 2018, we reversed the worst decision ever made by a government in Barbados. So the high end will be taken care of, but it's those at the bottom of the spectrum, the low-hanging fruit as we know it, that we must look after those that were crying out, like the lone voice in the wilderness. And I will say to all of Barbados, I will commit to both with equal sinew.
Okay. And the answer about the community center?
The community, on the point of the community centers now, on the point of the community centers, from a policy perspective, I will be, in the not too distant future, bring the papers started to the cabinet so that it could be that the community centers and the management communities can be fully exposed, and colleagues will be able to comment on it as we move forward in terms of policy. That is one thing that I will assure you. In terms of the repairs of the centers, we have started engineers assessment, and over the last couple of weeks, we have started repairs on 9 or 10 centers, about 7 centers thus far. But there is a program that we are running in this ministry, where over the next couple of weeks, all the community centers that are in dire need of repairs that were neglected over the last 10 years will have the cosmetic change that they need. But it's not only about repairing and putting pretty buildings. That is one aspect to look at it. It's what happens in the building that is the most important thing. And that's why we are saying community management committees must become the new norm. Community groups must become the new norm. The young groups that the minister is talking about. There are funds and structure being worked out in the ministry right now where we partner with these groups. And it goes back to partnerships, because that is where the conversation lies. Partnership, an important cog of sustainable development. And we are saying that we are going to partner with those young groups, those groups that are, we will call past the twilight or in the twilight of their years, because they have indigenous experience to lend to the young person in this country. The only way our young persons can be molded and our young people can have that chance and that paradigm is if the Trojans and the community leaders come and help become part of this conversation. So I want to give him that assurance that this is going to happen.
Just as a follow-up, I know you mentioned that there are programs in the ministry, but I want you to be a little bit more specific. Is there a point person that, if I'm in Orange Hill, St. James, and I said St. James, not St. Andrew, so I'm not talking about my constituency for those who might think that I'm just looking at my constituency. But is there a point person in the ministry that I could call if I have a group of youngsters? I mean, and I'm very passionate about these youth groups, because I recall in my own community, you had youth groups between the ages of 8 to 13, then between 13 to 16, 16 to 21, and there were so many different groups in a small area like Orange Hill. And we didn't necessarily need the involvement of the community development officer, but there was a point person. I mentioned Kiyaba as a good example. Is there a point person, that a group of individuals saying that there are no such groups now? I want to form a group, a community center. I'm say in third, fourth form at Mayor. Is there a point person in your ministry that I could call? And are there individuals in your ministry who would be responsible for each parish in Barbados to start up a youth group? And since you took office, how many youth groups have been formed in Barbados? How many have been formed? And in your area, for instance, because sometimes we tend to look around, you should be able to tell us about groups in your area, youth groups. I'm not talking about no building blocks now. I mean, that is a good initiative and that is very successful. How many of these groups you could pinpoint in your constituency? And if you can't, I mean, I could understand if you can't, because it is something that you might not be thinking about. What are your plans? If you don't have these point persons, what is the plan of the ministry to have this program, this specific program going?
Minister, as you will well be aware and understand and appreciate, groups are formed out of the community needs. So it may be, you may consider them youth groups, but it may be youth groups, it may be sporting groups. What I said about the community management committee, those committees, we are living up to the communities based on their specific needs. The needs in St. Andrew certainly may not be the needs in St. Philip. And out of those needs, that is how groups will be formed. Groups, when we will not, as a government, go into communities and says, I want X or Y, Z or group. That is not the way. I don't think that respect good governance and the community's wishes. What we will do is to allow the community out of the needs. There may be a spot in my community, if you want me to get more specific. There was a need to resuscitate the St. Joseph pastor and the activities, and a group mixed up of young and old, because we believe that young people need guidance. So when you say youth group, we still believe that they need older persons in the groups to help manage and teach our young people and to become part of the whole exercise and process and the dialogue with our young people. So whether it is youth groups, the groups that are made up of older persons, the groups must come from the community, recognizing, of course, that they have the reservoir of knowledge about their communities, what their communities want to do. And then they will contact, obviously, because they have community officers working in 4 different divisions. There's one for the north, different zones, the north zone, the south zone, the zone that would be responsible for the St. Michael zone. Those community officers who are intimate with the communities can be reached certainly through the ministry, and if groups see themselves as being a part of this whole exercise and dialogue, then I'm saying that those groups can contact the ministry and we will start the conversation then. But I'm saying to the Member of Parliament that I believe that it must come from the bottom up rather than we as a government saying we want X, Y, or Z group. That's what I believe.
Thank you. One quick question from me. I heard you talk about the Men's Health Forum as well as road tennis, for instance, that is usually dominated by men. What is their plan for the young ladies in the communities? Netball, volleyball? I know that might come under the purview of sports, but anything in the agenda?
There are programs in community development, a number of programs, and I will let the chief speak to them. But there are programs that young women say that they're interested in. Again, we develop programs out of the needs and necessities of communities. The young ladies within communities, they will be interested in the makeup areas. The
Some
cosmetics.
sports too. You'll be
There are some communities who, because our department sponsored and have netball association with the netball, the Barbados Netball Association, There are areas, some young women who play the same tennis, because we have young women. There's a road tennis women's association in Barbados.
I'm aware of that, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about other sports that women might like to, that is traditionally female.
What we are saying, and I want to repeat as lucidly as possible, once there's an interest within a community, where a group, it could be 10, 12 persons, you name it, come to the ministry and say, using their community offices, of course, that they're interested in doing X, Y, or Z, as you name it. We would do our part in terms of recognizing that there must be structure in place, there must be financial wherewithal being provided, and we will do everything in our part to ensure that this group has a tangible state in the community.
Thank
That's
you
what
for
we're
being
saying.
so lucid. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, and
You want to speak? He brought you forward to speak, I think.
And the groups are the women's groups.
yes, let me start by Let me
Just
let
put
me
it forward.
start, Madam Chair, by drawing attention to the fact that in addition to developing programs, the emphasis being on developing, growing, making programs richer and come to full fruition. In addition to that, the main function of the Community Development Department is to facilitate. By facilitating, it means that we are building on the resources and we are building on what already exists within the community. So we search out for that and we build on that. In terms of the development of youth groups, that process has started, and that has started with the Safe Havens project. The It's for Teens program is a program designed in 2009 for teenagers between the ages of 13 and 18. And it was designed to fill that void that existed in the summer when schools were on recess. The Community Technology program is a program that teaches level 1 and level 2 in information communications technology, but that always broke for the summer. That always broke for the summer, so that would go for 3 months, break for summer when tutors would take holiday, and that would be a lull. The It's for Teens summer program was specifically designed for teens to fill that gap. Now, since 2009, we have been having difficulty trying to keep up with the demands in the summer from parents, from schools, from young people for that 6 weeks program. Out of that program, no. I mean, we have tweaked it, we have reviewed it, we have asked for sponsorship, we offer things. They do web design, they do videography, they do graphic arts, they do ads, and all of these applications, all that they're taught in this summer is designed so that they can use it after. We cater to the girls and the boys who are leaving school, the girls and the boys who've been superannuated, and there is a good blend. Some of them have never had access to computer, they only know about the phone, they don't know who do email and everything. Out of that now, Madam Chair, we have the Safe Havens, because although we recognized it, this has actually emerged from the communities themselves. The teens remained with the resource centers. And they said the CTP's, the It's for Teens is finished now, it's August, we graduated, but we want to remain here because we want to have activities going. And those centers, I think there are about 6 of them now. There is Christchurch East, there is St. George North, there is, I don't want to go down the list in case I leave out any, but there are about 5 or 6 of them now where the teams have come back, and the aides, the officers at the centers have embraced them, created some structure, and now we have the Safe Havens. These centers are going to be open all day.
Wonderful.
They're going to be open all day, well regulated by the Community Development Department, obviously because supervision is required. And the activities will be activities that come out of the group, their ideas. We will seek to build leaders from them, and of course, we will provide guidance and structure where necessary. So that speaks to the youth groups and the community development department as a facilitator. Top end, we have a relationship going with the Ministry of Energy and Water Resources at the moment to provide training in photovoltaic installation and maintenance. This is going to be expanded. And these, looking into the future, we anticipate that the participants of this course will be able to go straight to the Samuel John Prescott Institute or find themselves businesses in this rapidly expanding area of renewable energy.
Thank you. We have gone well over time. Allow 2 more questions. Honorable Member for St. George South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Blessed good morning. Minister Forde and team, to you, Minister Forde, I see you are very focused, and indeed, that's the way you ought to be as you enter these walls. But if you look to your left and turn your head slightly, you'll see your very good colleague next to me since 9:45. Anyhow, that's just to correct, but you stay focused. I want to compliment you, Minister, for the good work that you're doing in your ministry. And I heard a member before he spoke who took you down the path of community centers, and I too share some of the concerns the member for Christchurch West and the member for St. Andrew would have shared, but I am going to go elsewhere because I think that has been fully exhausted, and I know you have a plan in place, as we have discussed several times. There's an old saying, what gets measured gets done, and this question pertains to youth entrepreneurship scheme. We know you have targeted the at-risk youth as a segment of your program through BYBT, Barbados Youth Business Trust. And I know very well that YES is doing tremendous work out there to enhance both social and economic well-being of our citizens, especially those who are below the line, you know, those from a low socio-economic bracket. My question pertains to what are you doing to measure the output? Because we can stay here and come 10 years from now with all this wonderful work that we're doing, but what are the KPIs and what are the measuring sticks that, or the yardsticks that we're using to measure our output and the value that we bring both to this economy, both socially and economically? And I leave you with that. You may want to defer to your head of YES.
I want to thank you, Minister, and certainly since 2018, the 25th of May, and since my involvement in this ministry, YES has certainly reached out to a lot of the, we call it the vulnerable community. YES roll out the program for the building blocks, of course, in terms of the entrepreneurship program, the marketing, and the other aspects of entrepreneurship that certainly was needed. And I'm saying that YES is also going to be an integral part of the conversation as it relates to Youth Prison Fellowship in terms of rolling out that program as well. But to answer your question in terms of the measurement of the impact and the success stories, I will let the head of YES, the acting, Mr. Ryan Moseley, to come forward and answer that aspect of the question.
Blessed morning again, and in response to the member for St. George South, the aspect about measurement with regards to the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial programs, YES has been a founding member within the pilot phase of the Barbados Small Business Development Center. This is a collaboration of all the business development agencies coming under the the leadership of the Small Business Unit within the Ministry of Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Culture, where the agencies collaborate to manage and to track the development of entrepreneurs in Barbados. Just to give a background, our focus within the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme has now been, I guess, changed to the ages of 13 to 30. We focus on the youth aspect of entrepreneurship, and that's where our focus is primarily. But we are actively involved in the Small Business Development Center. There is a tool called Neocera, where the information, because previously all the agencies would have their individual databases to store their information, their contact information, the milestones of the clients, what services they would have accessed from the varying agencies within the local entrepreneurial ecosystem. But the Neocera database now allows all the agencies within the ecosystem to collaborate to make more informed decisions regarding assistance given to entrepreneurs. The different agencies can actually see firsthand within the system and track the progress of clients. They can collaborate to assist the development of the clients, and that is a method that is prescribed by the proponents of entrepreneurship, where agencies actually collaborate to provide the best possible assistance to entrepreneurs. It also eliminates duplication because the individual agencies will be able to see what each client is doing among the other agencies. So it eliminates duplication, and it allows all of the players within the ecosystem to share information. There are milestones that can be tracked within the Neocera software. If clients increase employment, that can be tracked. If clients are referred to, say, the trust loan funds, that can be tracked. If they go to Barbados Investment Development Corporation to be enrolled in their export readiness program, that can be tracked. So each person, each agency within the SBDC has access to this information on each client. That is tracked. The collaboration is more efficient. Client needs can be addressed in a more timely and efficient manner, and it all redounds to the benefit and the progress and the development of the client. So the Neocera program is one with a lot of potential. It has to be fully utilized to garner all of the benefits that lies within it, and that is the system that is now currently governing the development of the small business and the entrepreneurs within Barbados.
Thank you. I'm going to give him a chance. Honorable Leader of the Opposition. We got to wrap up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Minister, with respect to the Youth Advanced Score, would you be able to give me the complement, the numbers of persons who make up the core, number of young people?
There are actually 367.
Say again, sorry?
367 young persons actively involved since since September 22nd.
And may I ask as a second question, the criteria for selection of those?
Any person between the age of 16 to 20.
All right. Would you be in a position to speak to the areas of Barbados from which to come? Are they selected on a constituency basis? Would you know the numbers relevant to each of the constituencies? Would you have that breakdown?
It's certainly not done by constituency. The advertisement and the engagement speak to every single Barbadian between the age of 16 to 20 who want to be part of a movement. So once you are between the age of 16 to 20, and once you reside in Barbados, temporary or otherwise, you have an opportunity to be part of this Barbados new Youth Advance Corps.
So without reference to specific numbers, you would suggest that the young people who constitute the Youth Advance Corps come from all of the constituencies in Barbados?
I wouldn't know exactly where they come from, but once a young person applies to do the course, we have no reason to reject them based on constituency. They are accepted based on the fact that they are interested in doing the course. There are resident.
But I don't want to I don't want to presume too much. You lead the team here today, and I respect that. But is there anybody in the team that can speak more specifically to numbers of where they come from?
I will invite Mr. Haynes, the director of the Barbados Youth Advance Corps, to come so that he can probably inform you of numbers.
Good morning. Let me say the Barbados Youth Advance Corps is open to all young people between the ages of 16 and 20. We don't look for any particular constituency. Since we've started the program, we had 367 persons, and but we don't do analysis based on constituency. We do analysis based on interests, and our job is to ensure that we build out the potential capacity of all young people wherever they come from. Whether they come from St. Lucie or they come from St. Michael, wherever they come from, our job is to build the capacity of our young people. And that's how we do it. It's not based on any particular constituency.
Last one, honorable member.
I'm not going to get any more information than I've received already. You would attest, therefore, that the majority of them come from rural Barbados or urban Barbados? You haven't that?
They come from all over. I think we have, in terms of concentration, I think we have a good spread of where the young people come from. They come from rural as well as urban. But historically, you see that a lot of urban people participate in the Barbados Youth Advance Corps. But they come from all over. And the good thing about the program, it has been publicized. We're always the only institution in Barbados that have more males than females. And we've always been oversubscribed when it comes to males.
Prison.
Apart from the prison. Developmental program.
But I'm inviting you, and I'm telling you that some of the young persons come from St. Michael West as well. And I'm inviting you to bring, if you want to bring the interest, we are going to encourage every single young person. From St. Andrew to St. Lucie to Christchurch to St. Philip, who has an interest and want to make a difference in their life, to come on board. We are certainly not going to look at constituencies. So if they come from St. Michael West, we welcome you with open arms. If you come from St. Andrew, we welcome you with open arms. If you come from
We
Christchurch,
get the idea, honorable member. I'm going
And
to
if they
allow
come
you
from
to
St.
put that into your wrap-up for 10 minutes and
and if
ask
they come
that
from
the
St.
head stand
St.
part.
Philip North, we welcome them to the Barbados.
I
Youth
got the
Advance.
gist. Go ahead. We're asking you to do your wrap-up and to move that, the headstand part. 10 minutes.
First of all, let me say thanks to my colleagues and comrades who make up this August chamber. I want to say as well to the team from the ministry, I want to thank them for being here, supporting me as minister, of course, and being able to augment the programs in this ministry. I want to give Barbadians the calm and rested assurance that we will do every single thing with the number of programs that we have in this ministry so that Barbadians, young and old, can become firm craftsmen of their fate. The Prime Minister will have exposed the Youth Advance Corps August the 16th last year. This is going to cause a renaissance across Barbados. We are going to give Barbadians young Barbadians between the age of 16 to 20, recognizing, of course, that all the data collected so far showed us that those young persons were disengaged, unemployed, and disinterested, not only in the political aspect of our lives, but in their social development. They felt that they were not part of the net. And we are saying to Barbadians, young and old, come and be a part of our system. Come and help build Barbados. So in the Youth Advanced Corps, we are going to teach our young people. Because after the life skills training component, which thankfully is going to go back to 10 weeks, after that component which teaches young persons resilience, character building, even how to deal with cyberbullying, because that is a new dimension that they're faced with. We are saying to our young people, we are going to teach you in the first 10 weeks how to build team relationship. And you would have saw them march and at Independence Day, as slick as you could get it. There was a movement across Barbados. And we are going to give young persons that opportunity to be part of building out Barbados. So along with the agri-science, the construction as we know it, the health services, young persons in this program will have the opportunity to build out Barbados, put in their efforts, their sweat, their hard work to see the growth and development of this country. Some may be involved in the armed forces, the unarmed forces, you name it. This is the one corps that is going to allow Barbados to have the future it deserves and be the beacon of the Western Hemisphere. We are saying that those at the bottom of the spectrum, those on the blocks, who were crying out in the wilderness. Because as I said earlier, the worst decision ever made in this country was to cause poor people, especially young people, to pay for an education. It was the worst decision. And I will repeat that every single time I get an opportunity to. I will catch Glottal Fry doing it. Because I believe that if you are serious about people, if you are serious about their development, you have to invest in the most important tool to build their lives. So that's what the building blocks will do. We are faced with a problem now as it relates to young persons being involved in a new drug fab, lean purple drink as we know it. We are going to respond to that need by leading the fight against this new drug situation that we are faced with, along with the other ministries and agencies. We are not prepared to lose Barbadians to this new fad. It is dangerous on their bodies, and I will speak more loosely at another time. But we are going to respond to this fight, and we are going to ensure that we wrestle it to the ground because it has a very dangerous effect on the lives of Barbadians. We say that those young persons coming out of prison, that the level of recidivism is too high. And so we have started a program to teach entrepreneurship for those individuals so that they themselves can have a tangible stay in Barbados and a paradigm. That is what we said. We have started our youth policy. And I want to thank UNICEF because it's all about building partnerships with international agencies and local agencies alike, and all those in the private sector who have come on board to make a difference in our young people's lives. The youth policy right now is being championed by a young lady, 24, 25 years old, Roshana Trim, because the young person has an axiom which speaks to the fact that nothing for the young persons unless you involve them. There is nobody better and right to lead the youth policy as it relates to young people having a political voice, a social voice, an economic stake in this country than a young person, along with a consultant that is being paid and provided for by UNICEF. And it speaks to my maxim, which believes that the young seeds are the future trees of this country. Trees that will provide us, in a literal way, with the ability to reduce the carbon dioxide level that is causing an existential threat to this nation. But in its metaphorical way, to provide shades for generations and generations to follow. It is my unreserved mandate as minister to respond to these needs. In the community department, we say that we will ensure that there are active community groups that will look after the communities. Again, I recommit to this. You would have heard about BH to the World Talent Show, again, from the community department, because we believe that Barbadians have the talent to be world leaders. And we must be able to provide a medium to show this talent around the world, where every single Barbadian, home and in the diaspora, is able to transfix themselves to that Barbadian, and to be able to show that Barbadian across the rest of the world. That is what we are saying. We said that there must be more engagement in sports, and sports must be an important cog in the development of our people. And so we have partnered with the Ministry of Culture, Creative Economy, and Sports in order to roll out 2 programs, the Community Under 19 program and the Community and Parish Road Tennis Competition. We are going to use every single aspect of this ministry to ensure that Barbadians, young and old, because in her wisdom, the Prime Minister not only put me to be in charge of those in the dawn of their lives, but those in the twilight of their lives as well. And the disabled community. Persons in the disabled community must also be involved in this conversation. And that's why we have started, along with the Ministry of Education, to have a summer camp program for those disabled persons. We are not going to leave any young person out of our catchment net. We are saying to young persons, young and old, partnering, of course, with the Prince Trust. We have a plethora of programs in our ministry, and we welcome their involvement at every single level. And I want to say to the entire Barbados that unlike the last late 10 years, where the young people of this country were crying out like the eternal voice in the wilderness, I am saying to them that this is the vocal cord that will fight on their behalf. We will give them the chance to be scratched by a new experience so that their old dimension could be forgotten. And we are going to work assiduously to our young people. All I'm asking colleagues in this August chamber, and if I want to coin a phrase from the Prime Minister herself, give me the money and watch me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please ask that the headstand part.
I now ask that Head 85 in the tune of $28,274,407 stand par.
I think we have to correct that number again. Go ahead, Major.
I hope and wish that Head 85 stand par.
Hold on. Correct the number. We okay the number with 6, right? Major, this is really this. Yeah, this one. Yes. Question is that Head 85 in the sum of $22,600,691. Stamp Park. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Maybe I had to hear from Edmund. You lead in the house? I'm going straight to, me not breaking. He said he's going straight to miss. Careful. What was that?
Page 31, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, $14,141,075.
14 here. I see the box fairy. Let me add it up. Let me add it up again. 18, 9 to 8. 9 to 8 is 7. Minus, take out the statutory. We doing the bill. 4, 7, 8, 7, 9, 3, 2. Minus 14.
Chairman, I ask for leave for the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology from the other states to speak.
So granted.
And invite her people to, so she can't invite anybody. You can invite them.
She did. He did.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Chairperson, I also asked for leave for the management team from the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology to join the Honorable Minister in the well.
So granted. We would like to welcome the Honorable Minister. We invite you to give your opening remarks. 10 minutes. Please be reminded that members of the House have 3 minutes for questions or comment on each question, which there are 3. And I will ask the team to introduce himself, no, ladies, when you come to the mic. Go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my absolute privilege to enter this honorable house as I come from the other place to present the estimates for the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology. Thank you for this privilege. Head 31, Now, before I start my opening remarks, Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce my team. To my right is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Mr. Charlie Brown. To my left is Rodney Taylor. He's the Director of the Data Processing Department and the Chief Technical Officer at the Ministry. Immediately behind our Permanent Secretary is Yvette Brathwaite. She is the accountant, the acting accountant. Immediately behind me, directly behind me in the second row, is Rodney Payne. He is the project manager of the Public Sector Modernization Program. Next to Mr. Payne and behind Mr. Taylor, to the left, second row, is Mr. Clifford Bostick. He is the Chief Telecommunications Officer, acting. Behind Mr. Bostick is Mr. Charles Cyrus. He is the Director of the National Council for Science and Technology. Next to Mr. Cyrus in the middle, 3 rows back, is Mr. Owen Harewood. He is the Chief E-Government Officer, acting. And finally, at the back, on the right side, is Mr. Richard Durant. He is Director acting of the Office of Public Sector Reform. At the start of this government's tenure, Madam Chair, the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology was created to drive public sector modernization and to create an enabling environment for Barbados to transition to a digitally powered future. It was also created to help raise the capacity of citizens to operate safely and effectively in a digital world. All this while supporting innovation that solves real problems for people and adds economic value. Madam Chair, this government continues to be committed to transformation at all levels and in every aspect of government. Digital transformation for Barbados is a significant leap. One might say it's a giant leap for us. And I want to say that every day, our ministry is hard at work seeking to convert what is a big, giant leap into manageable jumps for Barbados, given our resources and our current circumstance. Our ministry's focus for 2020-2021 will be making it easier for people to do business with government. That means putting more services online, enabling payments digitally, providing more information electronically. In short, more ease. We say in our ministry, we're on mission ease, making it easy, affordable, safe, and efficient for people to access government services online. The funds that this ministry is requesting to finance our mission in 2020-2021 is $18.9 million. Using these funds in 2020-2021, there are a number of new projects that our ministry will be implementing, most in collaboration with other ministries, departments, and agencies of government, as well as the private sector. Given the short period of time, I will only mention a few of these. But for the most part, our new projects fall within existing initiatives, as modernization is progressive and will simply build on what we would have done in previous years, along with introducing some new directions. Now, among the initiatives that started in 2019-2020, which we will be continuing during the 2020-2021 year, would include public sector modernization, quality of service in telecommunications, cybersecurity, and government's payment system, among the major ones. Public sector modernization, Madam Chair, will take 7.5 million of the 2020-2021 request for funds by this ministry. That is about 40% of our estimates. Modernization, ma'am, is not just digitizing records, as many people think. It starts with being citizen-centered, considering what people want, and then meeting their expectations as a government. Modernization involves re-engineering processes. That means going in, looking at the processes we use for everything from applying for something, to paying for something, to getting a certificate, to requesting a replacement document, looking at those processes associated and determining whether or not the processes are still necessary, whether we can shorten them, whether we can consolidate certain steps in an effort to make the cost to the citizen of transacting business with Barbados less expensive, and also to make government itself more efficient. Modernization is also about converting paper records to electronic records and adjusting the way in which we store and protect data. Modernization is training. It is upskilling and reskilling of our public sector team to make sure that they can operate effectively in a technologically enabled environment. Modernization is updating the work environment and bringing the human resource management system in government into the 21st century. All of these elements are included in the public sector modernization program, which this ministry will be administering and which is being funded also by the Inter-American Development Bank to the tune of about $40 million over the next 4 years. So in short, modernization is about modernizing processes, records, skills, environment, systems, and the mindset of people to be able to operate in a 21st century environment. And if I may start, ma'am, and just share a little bit about what this ministry would have done with some of the funds we received in 2019-2020, and start with digitization. As you know, government has millions and millions and millions of records. We cannot digitize all at once, but they are necessary if we are to become more efficient. It is necessary for us to digitize. In police, in collaboration with the Royal Barbados Police, we've digitized over 66,000 records that will help feed the back end of what is the certificate of character. In 2019, 23,624 persons applied for a certificate of character. And by us being able to move this process in collaboration with the Royal Barbados Police Force and the Office of the Attorney General, we will be impacting over 23,000 Barbadians. In addition, we have started work with the Immigration Department, digitizing 211,000 of their records. We are about 3% through it, and we expect that that process will be coming closer to an end just after the middle of this year. Again, Registration Department, we have been working with them to digitize some 93,000 plus records in an attempt to make it easier for Barbadians to get birth certificates and death certificates and marriage certificates over a period of time. Again, that process will be done later in this year. In addition, going into 2020-2021, we will continue our digitization efforts with the Lands and Surveys Department being a priority. There's over 123,000 records that we will be digitizing with them, and we anticipate that by the end of the year, we will be completed, if not well on the way. What that will do, Madam Chair, is allow each plot of land in Barbados to be identified and tagged. And what that then enables is for persons to get their titles easier. It will allow valuation for land tax to be done more fairly and easily. It will allow land registration to be done more readily. In short, ma'am, government will not just get faster and more efficient, but that will also reduce some of the hassle for the public of Barbados. The licensing authority is also another one of the priorities for 2020-2021, for which we are requesting the funds in our estimates. That will be a significant undertaking, as many processes have to be deconstructed and reconstructed, as inventory of records still has to be done, and we anticipate that will be significant. And change management will have to be a huge part of that as we help people to be able to transition to the new way of being. I wanted to share, Madam Chair, that so far in the digitization efforts, we have engaged 29 of the workers who were retrenched during government's restructuring. For our pending, we have trained 234 to level 1 level of digitization. It is the intention that in 2020-2021, Our ministry will engage more of these workers in our digitization efforts. How many and when will depend in a significant part, Madam Chair, on the speed at which we can build out Government's Record Center, which will have a scanning bureau. That then has a capacity to hold more persons and more workers and engage them at this point in time. The electronic documents and record management system is also an important part of Barbados becoming more efficient. And what that is basically is that when you take your records from paper to electronic, you need to put it on a system where people can find those records, search those records, where you can see where you sent it, who's working on it. A number of different processes can be managed through this, and it is a more effective way of us looking at our document management. Our payment services, Madam Chair, is one area in which we did significant work with the monies afforded us in 2019-2020. We were able to put 44 professional licenses online. That impacted 2,415 professionals, known professionals. And those licenses were for persons who need licenses to practice, contractors, engineers, paramedics, occupational therapists, the range of professions. This represents greater convenience for those professionals who no longer have to go and stand up and wait to pay for these licenses. And it is our intention that as we go into 2020, 2021, we will continue to build on those kinds of resources. In addition, we were able, as part of Barbados's payments ecosystem, that is all of the means by which the public would be able to pay government, and do so with ease, greater ease. We were able to update our Easy Pay system, to revamp it, update it, and make it now Easy Pay Plus. In fact, from September until February, that system collected just over $2.25 million compared to $400,000 for the same period the year before. We have a long way to go. That system still needs to be developed further, but we are doing it in an iterative process, step by step. Madam Chair, I had also mentioned that quality of service was a particularly important area of priority for us in 2020-2021, following on from work we started in 2019. In fact, we heard the complaints of the public and others who said that the quality of service in telecoms in Barbados was poor, and we have started the conversation. But not only have we started the conversation, we decided to audit quality of service in Barbados. In 2019, we started with an audit of the mobile services, your cell phone services, because that was one of the greatest areas of complaint. We started there because there are 330,000 cell phones in Barbados, compared to just 130,000 fixed line, which is in your home and in your businesses. We thought there are more phones than people because many people have several phones. And we thought that that was an important place to spend our resources in 2019, with the understanding that as we go forward in 2020, 2021, we will then look at those other services. What we have found, can certainly, our chief telecommunications officer can certainly expound on this. However, what we found was not just that the service was poor. We finally found out what the causes were. And we have been able to sit with our telecommunications partners and have them commit to specific actions to fix each of the specified causes. We are moving. There were a number of sites, for example, I will not go into all of the detail. For example, we know that there were a number of co-located sites, about 35 of them across Barbados, where there was signal interference. And we have been able to get them to start putting filters in to help reduce that so that you don't get noise in your ear when you pass certain areas. As I said, given the time, I will not go into the rest of the detail. Our chief telecommunications officer can do that. But basically, we have 22 of the 35 fixed so far. And we have systematically been going through that process. We understand that once we have fixed these services, we cannot simply allow them to go back to the way they were. So there are standards now that we are collaborating with international organizations to help us in establishing for the telecommunications industry, not just focused on their service now, but based on where Barbados is headed, being able to accommodate services going forward. And we are currently also talking with the Fair Trading Commission to ensure that while our ministry, the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, takes care of standards on the technical side, we are working hand in hand with them in terms of building the standards on the consumer side. And so these are some of the major areas. I believe my 10 minutes are close to finish at this point. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to simply introduce these areas where we will seek to continue building for Barbados.
Thank you. We now invite the Honorable Leader of the Opposition for his reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for the opening statement, for your presence here, and that of your team as well.
Oh, yeah, I forget. Go ahead. We forget she can't.
Chair, I beg leave for head 31 to stand par. Sorry. I beg leave for head 31 to stand par.
Move the head.
Move it? I move, sorry, for head 31 to stand par.
Seconded. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And let me say to the Minister, I've said it to you privately, that I think the work that this ministry is doing is very important work. If we have a vision for Barbados going forward, in the changing world in which we must live and work, do business and other things. And also that I thought, and I say this publicly, that you're doing a good job. I did say that to you privately, and I promise you I'd say it publicly. Of course, I might be wrong from this distance, and with my limited knowledge of matters of ICT and all of that, I might very well be wrong, but I don't think that I am. So let me start with that, and thank you for being here again. Thank you also for answering one of my questions of last week, which one of your honorable colleagues didn't answer, and that had to do with government's commitment to ensuring that a number of those workers retrenched from the public service were brought back in to be made a part of the digitization or modernization program. You did mention that in passing, and your honorable colleague did indicate there were very conservatively, the honorable member suggested 1,100 persons retrenched, and you have provided the information. 29 have been re-engaged under your ministry's program. So I thank you for that.
It is 29 with the intention that there will be additional persons. You have to understand that the projects were smaller projects, individual projects. We do not yet have a scanning bureau of government where we can accommodate more.
This is now
We have
his
trained
opening
others.
remarks, Minister. I'm sorry. You can answer.
Yeah, I understand. I absolutely do not mind the interaction. In fact, I prefer it. And I understand it's a work in progress. It's ongoing. It's 29 to date, and that's all I was trying to ascertain last week. And ma'am, I will forego opening remarks, if you call it. I'll simply get quickly to two questions. I have about 7 questions here, and I'll pose 1 or 2 or 3 up front, and perhaps come back. You have about $4 million provided for here in professional services, and maybe one of your team might want to speak more specifically to this. More than quarter of what you are requesting in non-statutory funding goes to professional services, and I wonder if we could have some specifics with reference to that, because a substantial amount, unless my calculations are wrong, $4 million out of $14 million going to professional services. If I'm wrong, correct me. If I'm not wrong, please, you need to give us some details as to how and where and with whom these monies allocated or be requested for professional services will be spent. The second thing I may want to ask at this stage is the minister's view as to what extent the BERT program is slowing your progress in terms of your goals, your set vision. I know BERT is impacting just about everything, understandably. I'm genuinely asking here the extent to which, in your view, BERT is slowing the rate of pace at which you are making progress in pursuit of your objectives. And the third question, perhaps, at this time, how have you and to what extent has your ministry, in your view, improved business facilitation in Barbados? I know you made reference to some of the stuff you've done with the immigration, the police, etc. And it's a question I have noted here. I'm asking it if it bears the necessity that you repeat some stuff. I certainly don't mind hearing again. But to what extent are you satisfied that to a significant degree, the efforts of your ministry would have improved business facilitation in Barbados today?
Thank you very much for those questions, Honourable Member. I will ask the Permanent Secretary, Charlie Brown, to speak on the matter of professional services, and I will ask Mr. Rodney Taylor, our Chief Technical Officer and Data Processing, Director of Data Processing, to speak on the business facilitation question.
Madam Chair, I'm Charlie Brown, Permanent Secretary, Acting Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology. In response to the honourable member, the majority of funds are allocated for the Public Sector Modernization Program. This is a $40 million program. It will see the rollout of a human resource information management system, as well as electronic document and records management system, as well as an e-services platform. So a majority of the funds and the professional services will be allocated towards that, the development of those three systems.
I'll ask Rodney Taylor to speak on the business facilitation aspect.
Good morning, Madam Chair, honourable members. With respect to the facilitation of business, the projects that we've embarked on so far, such as the ability to receive payments online for a number of government services, will go a long way in improving business facilitation. The projects that the Permanent Secretary mentioned, including the Public Sector Modernization Program, will also go a long way in facilitating business, because the part of that includes the implementation of an e-services platform that will see registries such as KIPO being able to receive applications and register businesses online. It will also involve a number of other key agencies involved in business facilitation, including the land registry, and including also the civil registries of the registration department, the national registration department, and others. In essence, we will aim to bring all government services online, those that would involve, for example, the application of a license or the application of a work permit. These are services that will be brought online, and once they are digitized, they will significantly improve the ease of doing business in Barbados. Thank you.
Honourable Member for St. Michael North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to, of course, congratulate the Minister for the excellent work that she's been doing on her team for the last year and a half or so in modernizing Barbados. And, of course, my interest in this, we share the common goal. We work very closely as co-ministries. We have the goal of facilitating the conduct of business in Barbados. The economy hinges on the ease with which businesses can be done. And I'm very, very pleased with the recent introduction of the Easy Pay system, because I know that Kaipo now is able to use that facility and facilitate the payment online at present. I don't know if this is entirely in your power, in your portfolio, but you are breaking records. And the one query I have is when, in your judgment, how far are we away from making that final step to where we can actually have online payments using credit cards from anywhere in the world? At present, the Easy Pay system is a significant movement forward, but as you know, you need to have an account, be a registered agent in the case of Kaipo. But of course, anyone can go in and register. That's not an obstacle. But that isn't the final step where I can sit in my home, go online, make an application, and pay, not being a registered agent. Say I'm living in UK or whatever, and I want to do a transaction that involves my making a payment to the Corporate Affairs, to Kaipo. I cannot do it now unless I'm a registered agent. When, in your judgment, or perhaps I can ask, do you have any word? I know that the Ministry of Finance is perhaps a major player in all this, but do you have any word as to when we're likely to make that further and final step to being able to make payments now with our credit cards from anywhere in the world at any time? Thanks.
I'll respond to your general comment first, and then I'll ask Mr. Rodney Taylor, whose division has responsibility for the Easy Pay Plus system, have him respond more specifically to you. First of all, I want to say thank you for recognizing that Kaipo has been working now with us and your ministry to ensure that those persons who call themselves service agents, like lawyers and accountants, etc., can now go online and pay for certain services. Among those services being transactions like change of directors or standing certificates, good standing certificates, etc. There are a range of services they can now do. In 2020, 2021, we are seeking to bring the business name aspect of the services from those ministries online, again, to make it easier for businesses. It is a gradual process. It is a stepped process. As we say, we are not able to do all at once. So what we have done is sat with the ministries, departments, and agencies and agreed with them on what they wanted as their first movers. And it is therefore with that collaboration that we have determined what goes first, what goes second. We also have to look at their own systems and see what are they ready for, because some of them need to be brought into a state of readiness before we can actually digitalize the process or digitize the payments for them. I am now going to pass over to Rodney Taylor to give you some more specific information.
Thank you, Minister. Thank the Honourable Member for the question. As you rightly mentioned, we are working with Kaipo with respect to the registered agents and their ability to pay. What is critical is the re-engineering of the process, so that even in terms of the notion of a registered agent would no longer be applicable, because any person should be able to apply and register. We are working on a solution because we recognize, as the Minister pointed out, that processes will have to be re-engineered. We have to determine the state of readiness of systems at every government department, not just Kaipo, but every department has a different level of implementation with respect to the IT systems. And we recognize that, notwithstanding this, there's an urgent need to be able to collect payments online. So we're rolling out an e-receipting solution within the first few weeks of the new financial year, which will see all of government's payments being able to be collected online. While we wait for the process re-engineering at the back end and the full integration of that payment to the back end system, so that there's a full system implementation in terms of the ability to apply and pay for the service online. In the interim, we will be rolling out an e-receipting solution that would allow, within the first few weeks of the financial year, for anyone to be able to apply for, to pay for any of these services, including those that are offered by KIPO, so including the payment for a business name, for example. So that will be essentially rolled out within the next few weeks.
Just a clarification, would that payment still have to be routed through the Easy Pay system, or can it be with the credit card at large?
Thank you. Just for clarification, at present, you can pay with your credit card from anywhere in the world on Easy Pay. So just for clarification, you can receive payments, you can make payments on Easy Pay once you register. You can use your credit card issued anywhere in the world to make payments. You can also use your debit card. You can also use M-Money. And I'm pleased to say that there are a number of other service payment providers, including the banks, just last week launched using the land tax as a first payment. The commercial banks have now also integrated with us, and they're able to receive payments for land tax using your own online banking. So if you bank with Scotia, you can use their online banking. If you bank with First Citizens, etc. We're also working with other providers such as SurePay, so that there will be a number of, it's a payment ecosystem essentially that we're developing that would allow any service provider, any payment service provider to be able to receive revenue on government, and for government to be able to see that information in real time. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Taylor, you've made me so happy. That includes application for business names online fully. It will get to that as opposed to having to go down there for it. That's a yes, yeah, right?
So for clarification, we will be able to receive the payment. The full
But nothing to do with application for a business name.
Yes,
I
will
still
be
have
the
to
new-
bodily go down there.
Yes, within the new financial year, once you roll out the e-services platform, you will be able to do that.
Okay. I live in hope that that can happen. I don't have to go down there. Honorable member for St. James North.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, I must commend you, especially and your team, because this has been a team effort, for the tremendous effort and passion and enthusiasm which you have and your team put into this effort to try and bring Barbados into the modern age in terms of technology and digitalization. This is, of course, a major plank of this government, and I know, of course, that you have had the full cooperation of the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, in this regard, and you've been to Estonia and I think Ireland as well, and not only you but some of your team, these countries which have made tremendous advances in this area over the last few years. Of course, when last the Barbados Labour Party was in office, we would have started public sector reform, but clearly this is a process, and we're now advancing this process through technology, smart technology, digitalization. And I commend you on behalf of especially my ministry, in particular the Immigration Department, which the Cabinet has wisely found it fit to be one of the first two departments to have the benefit of this process, and the benefits of that have been seen by everyone in terms of the praise that immigration has been getting for the speeding up of processes. The job is far from finished. You commented in your opening that there are approximately 211,000 applications which have to be digitalized, and I know we've only done maybe about 6,000, I think you said. So this process is going to take well into the next financial year to complete. But the reality is that because of your ministry's efforts and other efforts too, such as getting rid of a lot of irrelevant documentation that Immigration Department under the previous government required that was not necessarily and in fact unconstitutional for them to ask for. We have been able to cut down the time for processing of applications because all of this clearly has an effect on Barbados's or the government, the state's ability to earn money. And when we used to take 5 years to process a citizenship application, whether it was by marriage or naturalization, or when we took 2 months for someone to obtain a police certificate of character, which 85% of the jobs in Barbados require to be able to apply for the job, or when we took 3 weeks to register a company, as the lawyers in this parliament know it used to take. This has a detrimental effect on the finances of government. And I commend you. I noticed that today a statement has been issued that from today, March the 2nd, 2020, that you can now apply online for police certificates of character. You can pay for them online. You can pay at the post office, and there are people at the post offices in Barbados. Under my ministry, I think 8 or 9 were named, who in the morning will assist people in applying for this police certificate of character. So all of these are steps, tremendous steps, small steps in a way, but tremendous steps in terms of the Barbados brand and what this government is committed to doing to facilitating business in this country. We haven't even spoken yet, and I know you will develop it, Minister, of ease in getting liquor licenses, ease in paying your driver's license, so you don't have to take a whole day to go up and stand up in hot sun at a licensing authority, waiting in long lines to pay. And I know all of these, as you have said, it is a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but I know you're working towards this payment of income taxes, etc. And the reality of the situation, Minister, is that Barbados, essentially for each successive year under the 10 lost years of the last administration, declined in terms of ease of doing business and being competitive, to the extent that we were at 132 out of 190 odd countries.
Honourable Member, you're now at 6 minutes of the 3 that you have.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were at 132 of 190, and I am asking, Minister, as to where does your ministry aim to locate Barbados in terms of competitiveness and the United Nations Competitive Index by the end of this first term of government? What is your aim, your ministry's aim, in bringing Barbados in terms of the index of competitiveness?
Thank you very much, Minister, Honourable Member. If I may respond to your question immediately in terms of what is the number we have picked that we want Barbados to be at by the end of this year. We haven't picked a number. What we have said is we want it to be the largest leap that any country in this region would have ever made. We are working with our colleagues at investment and in the Ministry of Finance and Investment, etc., who have their competitiveness unit that they're setting up, where we are able to look specifically at what are those aspects of business facilitation that will help to move us further along. And we are giving them, those particular areas, some priority, provided those areas also correspond with where we're getting concerns from the public that they want most. So we are looking in a very strategic way as to what are the levers we need to pull in order to be able to make that leap. So there's no particular number, Honourable Member, but we are seeking to do the largest leap, certainly that Barbados has ever made, and we would hope it will be the best one in the region has ever made. You made a comment, sir, about us visiting countries and collaboration with immigration and others. Much of the work that this ministry does is in collaboration with other ministries. While other ministries may very well lead and drive what it is they need to do, for example, the police needed to do the police certificate of character. However, it is our ministry, the technology ministry, the change management ministry, the ministry that helps them look at the processes, deal with the change management, and put the technology on what it is they want to do. Equally, I know that the honorable member from St. George South is working on the liquor licenses. Again, that honorable member and his ministry will continue to drive that liquor license process, but we would have worked with them on re-engineering those processes and putting the technology to it. They are now working on the legislation and the other pieces that are necessary. Again, your ministry would have done significant work with customs and Gaia, the Grantley Adams International Airport, to be able to move the kiosks, etc. However, we provided the support in terms of change management. So much of the work this ministry will do will be in collaboration with other ministries, and oftentimes we'll be in the background while other ministries are able to work ahead, and that is indeed how we were designed. And so thank you very much for recognizing the support we've provided to the ministry that the honorable member has the privilege to lead, and we will continue to work collaboratively with the rest of government as Barbados truly goes digital.
Honorable member for St. George South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me join the member for St. James North, and I won't take 6 minutes though. Let me congratulate Minister McConney and her team for the excellent work that they've been doing, they continue to do, to digitize most of our business processes, because we recognize where we are today, and to be world-class, countries don't compete, businesses do. And to be world-class, we have to make sure that we follow suit what is internationally recognized and acceptable and has become the norm for businesses to launch most of our processes through an ICT platform. But I want to compliment you, Minister, and your team for the Smart Barbados Week that was held last year, October 1st to 4th. Indeed, that was a showcase, a phenomenal showcase where schools, children were able to view robotics. They were able to see what are best practices in the world as it relates to doing business through an ICT platform. Yes, we are working together, and I want to compliment you again for providing the much needed support through the Easy Pay and soon to be the new liquor license regime. But I want to ask you the question as it relates to smart city, and to tell the public generally what we should expect with that project. I know you're at the tendering stage, the tender stage based on your document submitted, but what we expect as a people, because we are doing a number of deconstructing and reconstructing in our cities, and I know your view is to have our city as a modern city as it relates to ICT. So I want you to share with us what are your plans as the tendering process is in train, and I know soon to be we'll have a smart city, but share with us because I know the public doesn't have the details, so share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. I will ask Mr. Rodney Taylor, whose department has responsibility for the rollout of Smart City, to respond to your question on Smart City. I do, however, just before handing over to him, wish to thank you for your comment about Smart Barbados Week. It was a significant effort that included the Barbados International Business Association, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce, our ministry, the small, so it was really Business Barbados collaborating with government to show Barbados, what is possible, to truly give us a perspective of the future. There were a number of initiatives that came out of that, and I'm pleased to announce we had a press conference at the end of it where we shared what it is we wanted to do together. Among those things was a Barbados Tech Accelerator. This is where you're bringing into innovation into the public sector, where we have normally allowed the public sector to solve the problems that come up. What we do now is we throw the challenges out to Barbados and say, we're having a problem in this area. Could you please solve? And we have a competition by which they seek to solve, and then we are able to move that solution, the winning solution, from there into procurement. It's a different way of now being able to deal with procurement. That Tech Accelerator, we have put money in the estimates for this next 2020-2021 financial year, and we will be seeking to at least move through the first stage of the Tech Accelerator. Again, coming out of Smart Barbados, there was a promise by 4 companies who stood with us to say that, you know what, we are going to give some of the digital ambassadors, the young people from the Give Back program that was so well launched by the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, that those students who were given back time as digital ambassadors with the Ministry of Innovation would be able then to have opportunities to work in future-focused jobs in the tech area. And I'm happy to say of the 35 digital ambassadors that worked at Smart Barbados, 28 have, as of today, been engaged. 28 out of the 35 have been engaged with those 4 partners who were part of Smart Barbados Week. So we're moving forward. And so I will now turn over to Mr. Taylor for him to respond on the Smart City question.
Madam Chair, I want to thank the honourable member for the question in relation to smart cities, and I'm happy to provide an update. Countries all around the world are rolling out smart cities, and essentially it is about the use of modern technologies to build intelligent infrastructure. So whether it is the monitoring of air quality, water quality, the movement of traffic throughout the city, human and vehicular traffic, and we were pleased to receive the approval of Cabinet as early as January 2019 to move forward with the implementation of the smart city, starting first with the implementation of free Wi-Fi, free public Wi-Fi that would be accessible to tourists and locals alike as they traverse Bridgetown. In addition, we had approval to, as one of the first projects, to implement a smart parking solution so that persons are able to find available parking in Bridgetown and be able to book that parking using a mobile phone and pay for it. In addition, we're working with the Ministry of Tourism, the BTMI in particular, the Tourism Investment, Barbados Tourism Investment Inc., to roll out, to work with them collaboratively to roll out an intelligent application, a mobile application, which would allow for the use of augmented reality as persons traverse Bridgetown, so that they're able to interact with their environment. So they can use the application to, for example, point at the Parliament building and be able to get some video footage or some historic information on that building, and so have a better understanding of, you know, this historic significance of Parliament and other buildings in Bridgetown. We are, in fact, at the stage of selecting a vendor for that. We had some administrative hiccups, and so we had to reissue the tender. The tender was closed just a few weeks ago. We're in the process of evaluating and should choose a vendor within the next 2 weeks. Once that is done, we will move forward expeditiously to roll out the free public Wi-Fi, which is the foundational aspect, because people need to connect in order to be able to communicate with all of the other systems that I mentioned. So that will be a first phase once we've selected the vendor within the next 2 weeks. So I'm pleased to say by the time that the new financial year rolls out, we should be well on our way to implementing that free public Wi-Fi and moving forward with the second aspect of that, which is the free parking and the tourism application. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My follow-up question speaks to the whole cultural change as we seek to Barbados, utilizing an ICT platform. And we recognize we had coming before you, Minister McConney was the member for Christchurch West Central, who spoke to the youth. And I believe in any country where change is imminent, we have to begin with our young people. And I would like to hear from you and your team, what are some of the programs, either through the National Council for Science and Technology, what are some of the programs that we have started or we intend to commence during this financial year 2020-2021.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I am going to ask Mr. Charles Cyrus, who is the Acting Director of the National Council for Science and Technology, to respond to that question.
Good morning. Thank you, Minister. During this coming year, 2020-2021, the National Council of Science and Technology will be focusing on three main areas. The first area is innovation and innovation promotion. The second one is we're trying to get Barbadians to be excited about the whole concept of science and technology. And in the third area, we'll be focusing on increasing the digital intelligence of our population. So under the area of innovation, we'll be establishing an innovation center. We want to give the youth an opportunity. The center will be a collaboration between the government of Barbados, the public sector, and the private sector. And we've already started those conversations with the private sector. The center will focus on exposing our young people to the various technologies, and it will provide them with an opportunity to practice, to train, and also it will provide them an opportunity to problem solve. So it's about exposure, it's about giving the opportunity to practice, and finally to give an opportunity to problem solve. In the area of the exposure of science and technology, and trying to get the Barbadian public excited about science and technology, there are a number of programs that we continue to do. One of the programs that we will continue this year is the Science and Technology Festival. The festival is a collaboration between University of the West Indies Faculty of Science and Technology and the National Council for Science and Technology. And actually, this year's program, which is 2019 to 2020, is scheduled to start on March 5th and goes to March 7th. This is this week, actually, which is the previous financial year. So in the next financial year, the program will continue. We also be, again, involved in a science and technology summer camp. This will be the 12th year in which we have been doing the camp. The camp is really about exposing our young people to science and technology-based activities during the summer. We know that this is a welcome program for parents because their children will be exposed to meaningful activities during the summer. Last year, we targeted 100 students in the summer camp. We actually had two camps going. One in which we targeted 100 students, and the other one we targeted 30 students. We hope to expand those numbers during the coming year. This is about exposing young people to science and technology in exciting ways in which we have role-playing, demonstrations, lectures. We often visit places of scientific interest and so on. We'll be also trying to complement what is taking place within the educational system. This year, we'll be introducing a new program. This is an out-of-school program, a weekend technology program. Our intention is to use the community centers on the Saturday to expose our young people again to various technologies, whether it's media, animation, coding, robotics, could be even artificial intelligence. Now, the third area, The third area which our focus will be is on increasing the digital intelligence of the population. And by digital intelligence, what we're talking about is an understanding and awareness of the technologies. You have heard the ministers mention digital ambassadors, and during last year, we had a pilot program in which we partnered with the Barbados Revenue Authority, and we engaged the young people from the University of West Indies to provide assistance across various communities. We went from Spikestown to St. Philip on the Saturdays, where the young students were able to assist citizens in both the TAMIS online system registration process firstly, and then thereafter is in the actual filing of income tax. And that was done during the period February to March up to April. So those are the three. In addition to the digital ambassadors and the use of the digital ambassadors for increasing the digital literacy and also providing our helping hand so that we ensure that all citizens have access to online services and be able to access government online services. We also did some training for children, students, as well as parents. We had Digital Hack, which is about providing that digital literacy skills to young people, and we extended that to DigiHack, in which we were focusing there on providing digital literacy skills for parents as well. Okay. Thank you.
Minister McConney and team, you know I often refer to you as a star girl. And I want to compliment you and your team for the work you're doing with the youth. And while your member just sold the team, I think the area that I want to reference is last year, July 13th to 23rd of August, where you had some average of 90 students being trained in science and technology. And then you had a further, during the age 13 to 19, being trained as innovative thinkers. And I think that is where the trust has to be. And I think you're on the right path in building out the ICT platform to push Barbados as a world-class country to do business and business facilitation. Keep the good work up, and thank you again.
Thank you. Before I go on, Mr. Cyrus, yes, the focus is on the youth. We all know the focus on the youth. But apart from the parents, what is being done for the older population? I mean, we have people that just don't want to get rid of paper. I might be one included. What is being done for the 50-year-olds, the 60-year-olds that still continue to use the banks, still want to register businesses in some cases for tax purposes, for instance? What's in the pipeline for them? Are we going to bring it to community centers? I have a vibrant one at me where to do line dancing. Are we going to use opportunities like that to get the information out, for instance? What's the plan?
Yes, definitely. And that's why I'd mentioned DigiParents. DigiParents is really the initiative that we want to focus on the older generation, so to speak.
DigiGrandparents.
And DigiGrandparents, if you want, if you want that. But yes, there's going to be a focus because like one of the things that the minister keep saying is that no person should be left behind. So we want to engage all aspects of the society and all age groups as well. Okay. So yes, we're focusing on the older generation, so to speak, in the coming year as well.
Lovely.
Thank you.
May I also add, Madam Chair, that we started conversations with the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, and we have not yet gotten to the point where we have identified the programming, but the intention is that through that partnership, we will be able to provide access to the kind of information, the kind of support that you were talking about, using them because they already have a membership base that is precisely that target group to which you are speaking. And this government does not believe that we need to do it alone or that we need to reach everyone ourselves. If we partner with those organizations out there who already have a cohort of people who would be very interested in programs, we would be happy to support them in doing their programs for their members. But it is a matter of time before we now get that programming going. But we have started the conversation and we intend to continue in that regard.
Wonderful. Just ensure that you bring it to the communities, especially, I know a lot of people that are members of BARC that don't drive a stroke other than to get discounts. So you need to bring it out to the community as well.
Madam Chair, may I respond also to a question that was raised by another honorable member?
Certainly.
It was the question of what else we are doing. I just want to say last Saturday at the Barbados Community College, we launched what is called Game Changers. It was approved by the cabinet just a couple of weeks ago. And Game Changers is really an opportunity for us to get our young people involved in the mobile gaming industry. As many of you might know, that Game Changers, there were over 100 children at BCC last Saturday who were interested. What we are doing is providing training for them. We will help them develop the mobile games, and we have contracted with a company that will assist them in moving the winning games from where they have developed them all the way to the market. And so that is, we're excited about that rolling out, given that that gaming industry is over $152 billion, of which 45% of that is in mobile games. And those are the games that they put on their phone and actually play on. And if we can actually get some small part of that, you may recall that in the manifesto of the Barbados Labour Party, we said we will not only help people to develop those kinds of opportunities, but we will also seek to use the heritage of Barbados and the culture of Barbados as content, as a part of the content for those games, to ensure that the brand of Barbados is going not just for economic reasons, but also where we make culture our business.
Chairman, I beg to move that you ask His Honor the Speaker to, at least that you report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg leave to sit again. Yeah, I think so.
Question is, that I do not report to the Honorable Deputy Speaker progress and ask for leave to sit again. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it. Oh, the Honorable Speaker, I apologize.
The Chairman of the Standing Finance Committee has reported progress and requests leave to sit again. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thought of this, sorry. Honorable Speaker, I beg leave for the House to be suspended until 2:30 for lunch.
Beg second it.
The question that this honorable chamber stands suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.